Hi guys, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, I am Milk and this is Milk Astrology, and I'm going to do another book video. And I know that like my book videos are really not doing well, and I know that you guys do not want to watch them, but I'm gonna be true to myself. You know, I'm happy doing them. I hope eventually I can grow a demand and interest in them also on my platform. That would definitely be my dream. But for now, here's another book talk video. Let's get into all the books that I've read in the past month up until this video goes up. Recording this video today on the 16th of September. The first book that I actually read in August was The Deal, and it was an off-campus series by Elle Kennedy. And it's about Hannah Wells and Garrett Graham. It's basically a really cute, like one of those college books where the girl is really intelligent and she's very just secure in herself, not really chasing popularity, not really into trying to be cool. And then of course there's the very popular character Garrett Graham, who really wants good grades and hunts her down and begs her to be his tutor. However, Hannah Wells is not really that interested in helping him, kind of keeps to herself, doesn't really maybe like a lot of the popular kids, so I feel like kind of not really excited to be constantly asked to help him, and so he keeps begging her and chasing her down, and then eventually he notices that she has a crush on some guy, and so he makes a deal with her and says, hey, if you tutor me, I can help you get a date with this guy. So that kind of wheeled them together, and so it's kind of a fake dating trope. And then, you know, I wouldn't say enemies to lovers, but they weren't really like, I don't think they really hated each other. I think they just like, she had a strong dislike or disinterest with him, but it wasn't really enemies to lovers. And I don't know, I just think that it was really good. I'm actually really surprised because I'm not really into college campus tropes. I'm not really into any of that. But I thought it was really interesting, and I really liked how it was kind of a grumpy sunshine, but the girl was the kind of the grumpy one, and the guy was the sunshine. And I think we usually only see like the girl be very upbeat and the guy be very brooding, so it was nice to kind of see a bit of difference with that. But yeah, so I definitely would rate that 10 out of 10. I think that was one of the best books in August. And then two books that I gave 1 star, which I know probably is very controversial, and I'm going to kind of brush past them, are Vicious by LJ Shen and Kresley Cole's The Dark Calling. Listen, I love the Arcana Chronicles. I love Kresley Cole. I was not a fan of this book. I feel like, you know, with how long they've been milking the series and, you know, posting a book maybe once every like 4 years, it feels like, I just feel like we're ready and we're very deserving of the resolution by now to know if the Empress chooses death, or she chooses oh my gosh, I forgot the character, the other love interest. So I just gave it 1 star because I was very bored. So yeah. And then the next book that I read in August was Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. And it's about this girl that goes to this small town and doesn't really know anyone. And then there's this guy who isn't really talkative, or he can't really speak. And I think that she asks about him. She's kind of like, who is this guy? And I think everyone in the town is kind of like, stay away from him. He's weird. But I think he's just like really misunderstood. And so she finally like talks to him, but they speak in ASL because she knows ASL and so does he, but no one else in the town does. And so she's actually like the only person that can break through his shell and like get close to him. And they have this really, you know, beautiful kind of Nicholas Sparks-esque romance. And I'm just gonna leave it at that. I definitely think it was one of the better books that I read in August. So, you know, rating all the books that I really enjoyed this month, or in the month of August, I would say The Deal, which was the off-campus series, and then Archer's Voice, and yeah. And then the next book that I read last month, which I think is actually really appropriate for like creepy, scary romances, which I want to maybe do a book or a video like for next month for that, but It's called Verity by Colleen Hoover, and it's so good. It was like the darkest book that Colleen Hoover's ever written, which I don't really think it was that dark, but it was intense. It was definitely like a mystery thriller novel. So it's about this author, and she's in this company, and she gets scouted to finish this series by this really renowned author, and she's kind of like, why would she just give me this series, like what's going on? But I guess the girl's in a coma. No one can know that the original author is in a coma, so she goes and she has to stay at the house to like get all the manuscripts, and then things get really creepy at the house, and there's a lot of stuff going on with like the manuscripts kind of incriminating the old author. And you get to learn about the old author, and it's kind of a whodunit theme where you don't really know who the bad guy is. And then there's her husband, the author's husband, where the current author is staying at the previous author's house, and they kind of get a little bit spicy. And yeah, so I just think you have to read it. It's very kind of creepy. It's kind of like you're watching I can't think of it. I'll insert it here, hopefully. But it reminds me of like one of those creepy shows in a good way. And it had romance, but I don't know. I think you're so focused on like the thriller and like the mystery around it that you're not really focused on the romance that much. But yeah, very intense. And then I read Heartbones by Colleen Hoover, and honestly, I don't think I liked it that much. I don't remember it off the top of my head, and that tells me a lot. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. Red, White, and Royal Blue. That one's kind of cute, and this is about the royal prince, and it's about the first son, so like the president of America's son, and they have a romance. But I really do enjoy that, and it was very fun from start to finish, and I think that we do need more representation like that, so I was all for it. I definitely enjoyed the experience while reading it. It was kind of like, you know, being behind the scenes of like the royal family and like the president, and seeing the two sons fall in love, and the two sons were very witty and intelligent, and it's just very cute. And you know, one's obviously like in the closet, and one's a little bit more aware of himself, and they really develop feelings, and it gets really intense, and yeah, it was nice. The next book that I read in August is called In 5 Years, and it was such a good book from start to finish. Honestly, I really enjoyed this book. It was about basically this girl who gets a glimpse of her life 5 years from now, and she's this like control freak who always needs to like be on top of everything, and it totally catches her off guard because her life is nothing like obviously like her 5-year plan. And then she has to go back to her real life after knowing like that glimpse that she saw, and her whole life kind of just becomes so different, and it kind of unfolds before her. There is some romance. It's not necessarily geared around romance, but it is really appealing because it's like a girl in her late 20s who thought she had her life figured out, then learned that she actually has nothing figured out. And I just think it's really important for like everyone to read, because I think especially I feel like we put a lot of pressure on people in their 20s to have their shit together. So yeah, next book that I read was The Wall of Winnipeg and Me, and I didn't think that it was a bad book. It was definitely Grumpy Sunshine. A lot of people really loved this book. It was a very slow burn. Like it's the assistant of this guy who's a famous football player, and I think they're Canadian, and she's been helping him out, but she goes to quit, and then he hunts her down, and he wants to have a fake marriage with her because it helps him out. And then they end up having this like, you know, close proximity or forced proximity, and kind of like feelings develop. But it's such a like, I don't know, I just don't really like books too much where the girl's super peppy and the guy's super grumpy. I get kind of annoyed with that, maybe because I myself am not a super sunshine kind of, you know, person, so I just feel like it feels forced when the girls are always like super cheerful, and it's hard to relate to. But I did enjoy it. I wasn't bored by it. A lot of people really love Mariana Zapata, and I'm gonna try to read more of her books, but I do think that someone with severe ADD, with how slow the build-up was and how much this guy was just kind of a douchebag for most of it, I wasn't that drawn to this book. But it is cute at the end. You know, he is clearly in love with her, and I'm not going to spoil everything. But yeah, another book that I read very recently that kind of just like this book to me is Marriage for One. So if you really liked The Wall of Winnipeg and Me, you'll really enjoy Marriage for One. I read them and like I was interested during the ride of reading them, but they're not like something that I would want to reread. And I love rereading my books when I really like a book, so I feel like that just kind of says how I feel about it. The next books that I tried to read are Maybe Someday by Colleen Hoover. And that one, honestly, like I was very annoyed with this book because it was like this girl whose boyfriend and best friend end up cheating together, I get behind her back, and then she meets this other guy who's like her neighbor, and he has a girlfriend, but then he ends up being kind of scummy to his girlfriend, and they have this like forced proximity roommate situation because he's the one that tells her, hey, I saw that your boyfriend and your best friend are doing stuff behind your back, so you can stay at my place while you figure stuff out. And then they have like this weird tension and it develops, and I liked a lot of this book until like I just really didn't like it at all. I think it's just like it's one of those books where so many repeated offenses keep happening where I just got a bad taste in my mouth personally about like the guy. I wasn't a big fan of either character that much, but it was still enjoyable. I just didn't want to read. I think there's like one or two other books pertaining to this like series and I didn't want to read them. I did read Confess by Colleen Hoover, and I thought that was definitely 10 out of 10, one of the best books by Colleen Hoover. It's about this guy who owns an art studio, and it's kind of like post-secret. Like he posts like people's very, like they submit their confessions and then he posts it in his gallery with his artwork. And this girl who I guess was just passing by like saw it and really spoke to her, and he hired her for a day to work with him, and they have this like Insta kind of attraction. But I think like they don't like get together very instantly, but they both have this very like immediate attraction, and he actually knows this girl, but she doesn't know that. So like there's like a lot of things that they're both kind of keeping to themselves. The girl's very secretive and kind of closed off, so you kind of have to peel back a lot of layers about who she is and what she's about. And I really liked this because it was very like artistic. You got to see some art. And it also like the whole like basis or premise of this book was around like people submitting confessions that are like very vulnerable and raw about their lives, and like it's being entwined into like people's art for this gallery that they're working together and doing. So I thought that was really cool as well. And also like the romance was 10 out of 10. I don't have any complaints about that. The way that they cared about each other was very cute, and I did cry at the end because I can't tell you, but there's a lot of stuff about this book that's very intense. And like I said, it's like an onion. You gotta peel some layers back. Not Pretending Anymore by Penelope Ward. And I did like this book a lot, actually. I'm pretty sure I rated it 5 stars. So I definitely think that like I enjoyed that the girl was kind of grumpy and the guy was sunshine. So I really enjoyed like the archetype of the girl being very kind of strict and routine, and they kind of do this fake dating thing to make the people that they have crushes on jealous. He ends up being her roommate. They both like other people, but then I think the more that they fake date, the more they actually kind of develop this like attachment or feelings with one another. But he's very secretive with her because like he has this dark past that he doesn't really want her to know about, so he kind of pushes her away. And then they kind of like date the wrong people, so at first you're kind of like rooting for them to go after the people they like, and then you're kind of at the end wanting them to just get together already. And I just thought it was really fun. I really like, again, like guys who are really cheerful and try to like get girls out of their shell versus like the opposite. And yeah, so I just enjoyed that. And then the last book that I read is Daisy Jones and the Six. So many people were saying how you need to read the audio book with the book, and I thought that was kind of weird because I don't really like audiobooks, but I did try it. It was pretty nice. I understand why people said that because it's kind of like different voices throughout the whole book, and you kind of need to hear for the context. It's about this girl who's in a rock band. If you read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, you're going to enjoy this book because it's the same author. It's definitely an intense book, and I definitely think it's a good one. There wasn't a lot of romance in it, and it did have like a pretty like sad ending, so it's not really a good book to go to if you want like a cheerful, upbeat read, but it's definitely a very intense like rock and roll 70s drugs, sex, that kind of thing. and there's a lot of really nice quotes in it, so it's definitely like a book that you should definitely read. Overall, my favorite books out of all the books that I read over the past month have to be The Chase by Elle Kennedy, Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan, Verity by Colleen Hoover, In 5 Years by Rebecca Serle, Confess by Colleen Hoover, and Not Pretending Anymore by Penelope Ward, and Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid, Red, White, and Royal Blue. There need to be more books like this. It was by Casey McQuiston. So yeah, overall that completes this video, and I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you guys get some book ideas and book recommendations from it, and I will see you in my next video.